episode is an affiliation with Buchanan County Sports. It's a program that is going to allow us to get to know the character of all the athletes. And here tonight with me, I have Grundy Golden Way Senior. It's hard to believe you're a senior. Ethan McClanahan. Ethan's had probably the last 2 years of just I mean, it's unbelievable on how many posts I've seen on Facebook and the newspaper of places you've played and you've went, and things that it had not been for basketball, you may have not ever been able to experience those opportunities. So as we're getting started here, before we jump into all this, I just want you to kind of tell the people that, a little bit about yourself, how it's been like for you the last couple of years. I know that me and your mom, we talked a little bit, and I used to work with your dad, super great guy. And they're true believers in Christian. They're Christian, true and through, and they've raised you up right. And I know that's a big part of who you are and how you live. So if you just want to touch on a little bit of that and who you are, just tell me a little bit about yourself, what it's like being Ethan when you wake up in the morning and what you go through.
Yeah, well, as you said, my parents raised me as Christians, and I start my day off and end it with reading of the Word and devotionals, and that's been my basis for everything that I do for the past 2-3 years. I try to pray before every game, after every game. I try to think of every chance I get, and this has been an awesome journey throughout high school. Switching coaches my sophomore year between Doc and now Jory, and it's honestly an honor to be the last graduating class and to have the chance to have that one final last ride for Grundy High School basketball and just try to make as many memories as I can off the court. Try to read as much as I can, try to spend as much time as I can with family, and then I'm with basketball 7 days a week, minus church, 6 days a week because I go to church to take those days off.
Probably, even on Sundays though,
yeah.
You still played it out in your mind. You were preparing for Monday, the following week. I remember, back when I was your age, and then I fell in love with basketball. I used to tell people this. My dad's he's never been an athlete. He's never been, the only sport he'd ever liked was baseball, right? But I remember back when I was your age, and Dad would say, "Why do you like this game so much for?" And I tell him, I look at it like basketball is the one love that you have that won't divorce you and it can't take your money. So, unless you just like betting, then you might lose your butt then. But I fell in love with it, much like you did, and have, and the opportunity that you've been given, you really took advantage of it. Let's just talk a little bit about what your summer's been like since last year when the last graduating class came through Grundy, and then you were like, in your mind, okay, this is it for me. This is my senior year coming up, and I'm guessing you probably came to the graduation year, and as you're walking out, it's starting to get real for you. So the next day, what's it like from that day forward until now in preparation? Some of the things that you knew that you were going to have to do to get to this point you are.
It's honestly like a switch flipped that day. After the game, I was sad, but like the day after, it's over. It's like the next day, it's my senior year. That day it started, and it got really real. And my summer, it was jam-packed. Every day we was in the gym here with Grundy, or I was traveling on weekends. And then we had team camps throughout June, but I wouldn't trade a single second of it. And then, June I got to spend time with my teammates. That's gonna be like family for the rest of my life. And we got to bond more on and off the court. We had a great summer. We beat a couple of great teams. We're figuring each other out, getting more team chemistry as we go on. And I'm trying to prepare as much as we can for this final season and band together as much as we can.
I've always admired Jory and his. He came from a coaching philosophy in Brian Moore. It's get up in your face. It's hard-nosed defense. I've been and I've sat and watched some of Brian's practices, and I see a lot of that in Jory. And him being an ex-military guy, he's got a little bit of grit already, but he brings it into a gym. And I would think that his philosophy and his style, it wouldn't matter what sport it was, he would transition into whatever it is. And I see that he's passing that down. He and I was just talking about, a game that you all had y'all were down, could have give up, and it's just like he said, there's no X's and O's that's going to get you out of this. It's here. But that's something that he had instilled in you all, and you all started fighting back. 30 seconds or 40 seconds left in the ball game. If you had extra time, who knows what would happen. But just that never quit attitude, it shows good character. And that's what builds good young men and your all's futures. Let's touch on your time with the representing Team US in Barbados. And I'm like, Barbados, really? I mean, this kid's from Grundy. He's going to Barbados playing basketball. The last person I can remember from this area traveling and playing like it was Neil Rathman. And everybody knows Neil. He's a basketball god and counsel, But I started reading some of these stories, and I get so caught up, in the kid that, because I can always remember you, and K1, second, third, fourth, all the way up, and now I'm seeing you guys driving and graduating, moving off. But then I read these stories, and you're gone overseas, and you're participating in something that, even some of the elite that make it to the D1 levels never get an opportunity to do. So when you get there, I know it's going to be like everything's going to be you're in awe, right? So I can imagine. So when you get there, what's going through your mind about? Because I'm guessing you're not playing with kids that maybe something you've never met.
No, I haven't met any of them. At that airport, that was my first time ever seeing them. Like ever.
So how was that like? Have you ever been on a plane before?
A couple times, not many times, but maybe 2 or 3 times before that.
Yeah.
But never flew out of the country before. It was always in states. It was never out of the country. And on that plane ride, whenever we opened the window and seen the island, all that was going through my head was, "This is real. This is real. You're here." And it was such a surreal feeling to be in another country and being able to support and represent not only USA but McCain County as a whole. And that's your homegrown athlete from here going there. I mean, it was honestly, I had tried to have so much pride for this town because it's such a small town and I have such a great community that supports me. And it was not only that, but my team banded together the first day. We got off the plane, had to go eat, put our stuff up in the hotel. It was like a car, it was more of a hotel. And first practice, we were banding together, laughing, smiling, taking videos and all that. And then we went out to eat. And then the next day, we had morning practice. And then that was our first game against the local Barbados team. And we blew it out of the water within 2 to 3 minutes.
That's when I was reading on this, to be honest with you, I had never really heard of this, the tour they do there. But it's got, for people that don't know, it's the Fast Break tour that's in Barbados. And some of the names on that list, I said, I've heard those names, so I started Googling. And I realized these are some of the players that play in the FIBA World Cup games. And I said, man, this is some good talent. There's some really good standing talent there that you've got to participate and play against. Some of the, probably if you go over there, it's probably, their top, maybe, I don't know, maybe the top guys, but just being at that level really says it's to me, okay, this kid's arrived. He's put in the work, and he's not afraid of the moment. Obviously, you're leaving the country to go, play in a sport you love. But I'm looking at this and I think, he's everything that most players should be. And I know you don't ever want to settle. That's what I'm saying. You don't settle, and I've never seen that out of you. But you definitely were playing against a lot of good talent. And you go from there, you could have took a break, but you're with your regular AAU squad that you play with, and I'm seeing, it's like every weekend you're somewhere different playing. And I remember telling, my son, I was like, I'd hate to buy the shoes if it cost to stay on his feet because, and my son played a lot, but just thinking, it's like literally year round for you. It's nonstop, you know. But you go from there and you play in all these other tournaments. So after you come back from there and you experience that, what are, I'm going to say, what are some of the highlights after you come back? Because, you know, the shock is over and you come back to reality, you're back home. What's some of the highlights? Did you realize that, okay, you know, everybody sort of got eyes on me now?
You know, honestly, it was kind of the opposite because I tried not to pay too much attention to it because I didn't want it to get in my head. And I didn't want to become, you know, think I was too much better than what I was because I wanted to be that guy that was a silent killer. And my teammates, they were congratulating me, and because I played with my A&U teammates that weekend, like 4 days after I got back, 3 days, and you know they were hyping me up, you know, congratulating me when we stepped on the court, and it was like that never happened, and we were banding together.
It's one of the boys.
Yeah.
That's what I like about basketball is that you know it's football is like a different sport when you think about even the team aspect of it. You know, because with basketball you can play it literally year round, so you get to meet a lot more people. Football's a little bit different, but I mean the team aspect's still there, of course, but it's just a little bit different when you think about being able to travel and do the things you'd never be able to do in football. But I want to go through some of your achievements as well. And you just recently, I saw in the paper and I saw a posting and saw you got an MVP at another event that was hosted in Charleston, South Carolina. Tell us a little bit about that. It's with the Big Shots tournament.
Big Shots. Man, that was another great honor because getting the Big Shots MVP and winning, because to get the MVP you have to win the whole tournament. Like you could be the scoring champion, have the most average per game, but you have to win the whole tournament as a team to get the MVP. And we should have won it like 2 or 3 times, and we gave it away within like the last couple of seconds, like a couple weekends before that. And previously, the weekend before that, because they wasn't originally going to have that tournament, so we were going to we were ending on an 0-3 loss, like done, final over summer. And then they decided to have it because they were having like 2 separate things. Then they decided to have the team aspect of it. So we got a couple there, you know, a couple couldn't play because of football started. But as soon as we went down there, it was like we were all locked in for it because we knew that was our last time. That might be some of my last tournaments and memories with those people, so I wanted to make it, you know, special. And we went out there the first day, we went 2-0 against a really good Cave Springs team. And then the second day is always the hardest because you have to go back to your hotel and not get on a high and keep a level mind. And we came back that second day expecting to win it regardless because you're supposed to be the best overall record. But then we got to the tournament and they said, if you win, you got it. If you lose, you don't get it. So that put even more pressure on us. And I'm playing with like 3 or 4 guys I've never met because we had to fill in people for the people who left. But I mean, they fit right in. It was just an awesome experience because seeing all their smiles and congratulating me and like not being jealous of me and continuing to pass me the ball was just speaks characters to them.
So, were you expecting the MVP, or did you think you were expecting it? So you knew you played that well. Yeah. I seen that. I think one of the games, it might have been the final game. Was it 18 you scored?
Yeah.
So I mean, I knew that once I seen that, you know, I thought, well, he's probably averaged across.
I try not to keep up with my points during the game because I don't want to get, you know, too ahead of myself and focus on points because I want to be an all-around player and not just an offensive player. So then trying to get the scoring title was one thing, but I wanted to win as a team more than anything to get it not just for me but those guys as well because it looks good on them too, not just me.
Looks sweet though when you win both.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever seen an MVP on a losing team. You know, maybe it has been out there, but I've never seen it. Let's touch on last season. I was looking at some of your stats. I picked them up and looked at them. And this is just in a 22-game season. Your averages was 13.9 in points. Shot 45% from the field, which is, you know, above average, especially for a high school kid. That was, you know, and it was a 2-point range. You know, that was 45%. Your 3-point field goal is at basically 39%. But you don't shoot. You hadn't shot a lot of threes up until maybe this past year. And why I don't know, because you got a good shot. Maybe it's just because the coaches says we got to have you in this role. I don't know, but your free throws are 80%, which is great. I've had teams that had great athletes. They'd be right there in the game and couldn't make a foul shot. Had nobody we could put on the floor that says, okay, we need you to get fouled. And it's one of those things you didn't want to get fouled. But now I see 80% here, and that means a lot because the coach can give you the ball any given time and not worry about you getting fouled. So all these right here stats, I see all these, and they may have been on there. I think it was like maybe two steals per game I was seeing, which don't sound like a lot, but basketball, 2 steals is a lot. It is. One of the things, because I have seen you, like I said, from here until the age you are now, you've always been really aggressive on the defensive end. And I saw that you did pick up a lot of charges. And now, when I seen the stat, I don't know if that meant, you didn't take the charge or if you didn't, give the charge. I don't know which one that was. So I kind of looked at that, really not that big a deal. But the aggressive part of that is one of the things I wish they would do in stat keeping was be keeping an average of fouls per game. And none I've seen today that I've looked through on yours had any average of fouls. If there's any aspect of this that you think that, okay, I need some major work or I need to keep working on, what would be the 1 or 2 things you could pick out of those?
It would definitely be, well, as you said, because they don't keep fouls, but a lot of those games I had a couple of fouls. Because the last game of the season, I ended up fouling out the last 30 seconds, and I couldn't be there for my team, and I absolutely hate fouling out. But I let my aggression get the best of me sometimes while trying to go for those steals, and it happens too fast, and then I can't go back. And, being in foul trouble, I have to sit out, and I can't be there for my team. And I'd like to shoot a little bit better from 3. But again, it was our roles, but I feel like I need to shoot better from 3 because that's kind of my either shoot a 3 or get to the rim, and I need to open up the 3 more and stretch the floor more. But this year I'm going to be transitioning to a new role, most likely point guard. Because last year I was shooting guard, and I'm going to be bringing the ball up the court more, which means the ball is in my hands and I can create more for my teammates.
Well, two aspects I've seen of your game early on. And I was talking to Michael about this earlier this afternoon because I remember you, as a young kid, and I remember the way your shot looked. And I remember in my mind, I thought, because you had all the other, you could dribble, you could pass, you could rebound, you could defend, you could do those things. But your shot was looking like you were struggling. And I remember this time I was working with your dad, me and I were talking stuff. He's always, you'll get it. And sure enough, you did. But I think that for you, the confidence came with, and you did go through some coaches. The coaching changes means, that every coach has a different philosophy, a different way of teaching things. You have been blessed with some good coaches through your life. And I see now the work that you put in just in your shot. You was a gunslinger. You literally would shoot from the hip back then. And it went from that now that when you step on the floor, they used to make fun of me. Said when I stepped in the gym, I always had my hand back ready to shoot. That wasn't always true, but I understood what they were saying was that I was always ready if the ball came. But for you, I've seen so many things just revolve and how the dynamics of your game has changed. You hear some kids your age, it takes till after graduation before you see an improvement. It seems like with you, and maybe it's because of all the traveling you do, and you do it the right way. You don't just want to go with your buddies or just want to have fun. You want to get better, and that means a lot. So, how's it been for you going to these AAU tournaments and these other travel ball tournaments? How's it been for you knowing that it looks like sacrifice to some people, but for you it's just like this is what I love doing. How's it been for you, like with your friends? Have you lost any friends, or have they said like, man, I wouldn't do that? How do they kind of? Are they warm to the idea of you just saying, "Hey, this is what I do"?
Yeah, I wouldn't say I've lost any friends. We've all got closer, and we all talk about it and stuff like that. But I've had a couple come up to me and ask me like how I do it all year round, and like ask me how much I love it and stuff like that, and like they really do it. And I mean, I guess it goes back to me seeing the game different more than just a game. I mean, it's more than just basketball. And it's, you know, also just therapy and like stuff like that. I mean, I love doing it. It clears my mind, and I love working on my craft. Like, it's just what I love doing. And you touched on confidence with travel ball. Between that and the work that I put in, travel ball, my travel ball coach instilled a lot of confidence in me, because I went to him my freshman year, freshman going into sophomore summer. I mean, it didn't matter, missed a whole rim, he'd tell me to shoot it again, because he knew what I was capable of, and he seen what I didn't see, which what I now see. And he had so much confidence in me, and I will ever be thankful for him. He instills it in every other kid that he sees, but he installed that confidence in me, and it's lit a flame under me ever since.
Confidence is extremely huge in basketball. Like I said, with football, and football is my second love, but with football, all right, so you missed a tackle, okay? You don't have, you get down on yourself, but you can always take that out the next hit and be aggressive, you know, just that mix up or whatever. With basketball, if you have a mistake, you can't just go up and smack somebody, because you just got 5 times to do that, and you're on the bench. So learning to control that and keeping your confidence is huge, and it seems like you've done better with it every single year. And now that you're moving into the point guard role, it's even, I'm sure Jory, you know, has told you this, how much, you know, Jory has always been a guy that has never been one to brag on himself as far as his accolades or what kind of athlete he's been, or, you know, through his career. He was extremely athletic, and if anything he had going for him that most people did for his size was he had a lot of heart, because there was never any quit in it. And I always admired that about any player that was his size, you know. And I started thinking, all this travel you do, and when do you have time to study? So, and I know your mom's strict on that stuff. She's like, hardcore, you're getting it or else, you know, kind of thing. So, how does that work out for you? I mean, it's a lot of work just to put in to have, you know, the joy you have in a basketball. So tell us, if you would, is it a lot of late nights staying up still trying to cram it in?
Yeah, it is a lot of late nights, but you know, the perks of traveling is it's a lot of downtime in that car. Mm-hmm. And that's one thing she's always told me, is it's dead time on that road. So I can, you know, I can remember last year, my last tournament of the season I was working on stuff in the car, in the hotel room, trying to get it done so I didn't have to worry about it, and it was hanging over my head so I could focus on basketball. And even if I didn't get it finished in the car, I could go home and finish it, or work on it on the morning when I wake up. And it is a lot of work, it is a lot of late nights, but once you get used to it, it's not as bad.
Well, I have to tell I'm going to brag on you a little bit, just simply because I think it blows my mind that somebody has traveled as much as you have and still maintain the great point average that you have, and still, you know, keep right on keeping on. But you know, you're taking 4. Now you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, because I did pull this off the internet. But you're taking 4 AP dual credits curriculum, right? Yeah. And that's South through Southwest. Yeah. 4.0 average. Just a senior in high school. And your GPA 102.6. You know, you've already got 46 college credits. You know, I know several people that's probably been in college 10 years and don't have it. But you know, that just says a lot about what it takes and what you've accomplished as a young man. It says a lot about your character. And this is what this is supposed to be about. It's just, for me, I want to get to learn you kids and let everybody else see what you put into this. It's not just I'm gifted or whatever. I have to work at it on both sides. I got some questions I want to ask you, and I want you to be truthful. Okay. Which I know you will be, but try not to think. I just want you to think that what comes to your mind. What has been, or who, or what has been the biggest inspiration for you in your life?
Can I name 2 people?
Yeah.
My parents, 100%. I mean, like watching them and how they raised me and what they instilled in me as a young kid. I mean, what's been instilled in me, and is what I want to teach my kids whenever I have them, is try to be like them, because you touched on my schoolwork. They enforced that at a young age. They told me it's student athlete, not athlete student. And school comes first. And that if I didn't have good schoolwork, it was pull me out of
no ball.
No ball.
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it. So if I'm a college coach sitting here right now, and I'm talking to you, what is the most important thing that I need to know about Ethan McClanahan?
There's never quit. I'm never going to quit. I'll always be the first one in the gym and the last one in the gym. I'm always going to have that go-getter attitude.
Okay, as a point guard now, this is upcoming season. You're moving into point, and actually, I didn't know you were moving into point guard. And I'll put this down. So, as a point guard, how do you keep your teammates motivated if they're struggling, maybe with an aspect of their game, or maybe it's a game time situation? How do you keep them motivated?
You got to keep them in the moment and keep them in the present moment and make them forget about their mistakes. Because Neil Razik told me you gotta have short-term memory in basketball. Because it happened, you gotta forget about it next play. Because basketball, you miss a shot, you gotta get back on defense. You can't worry about that shot. And keeping my teammate in that moment, keeping my teammates in that moment, and keeping them, from getting down on themselves, you have to. Because once it's contagious, once they start getting down, it's like team morale starts getting down. So if you keep them up, team morale starts getting up. And I remember last year we were against Tasman, and we were having, we were struggling. And I remember my teammate Ryder, he dug on the ball, and everybody went crazy. And from then on, team morale was up. We was hopping up on defense, and it was like everything was like switch flipped again.
Sometimes it just takes that one play over that one person. All right, besides scoring, what do you feel is the most important skill aspect for a point guard to have?
You got to be able to pick up 97 feet and be able to pressure that ball. Because as a point guard, you have to control the pace, but you have to control the defense too. Because you're like the quarterback of your team. You got to control them too. And then being able to pick up on defense and make the offense scramble, you have to.
Now, as an old coach myself, I've always looked, first 2 or 3 days of practice, you get new players or whatever, and I always look and I wanted to see what kind of player they were. So I would put different skill sets out there for them to try to do. And then we put scrimmages together, and sometimes I would go over and I'd whisper to a kid, if he comes through, give him elbow. I want to see how he reacts. Or, just different situational things. And one of the biggest things for me that I always looked at, I wanted to know if that player, no matter how athletic he or she was, were they a seeker or an avoider? Okay, now that becomes, it's an old Tom Izzo saying. And from that standpoint is that as a point guard, you see a lane, it's opened up, and there's some big cows in there that are going to knock you down. Do you go to that because you're 80% shooter from foul? So do you drive in there with the mentality is, I don't care who's in there, I see the lane, I'm going to score, or do you avoid that contact and kick it out?
Well, it honestly depends on the read. But if the lane's called, I'm going after chest. But if they pull off from their man, I'm going to make the extra pass and trust my teammates and their craft to hit that shot.
That's the right answer. That's what I would want to hear from any point guard of mine. That's the right play anytime. And a lot of kids I've seen, they see an open lane, and it's about the score. Now they're not going to avoid the hit, but they also, by doing that, but they can see the score, but by doing that, you can draw the defense and kick it out. So that's a great answer. I know we're going to talk high school, we're going to talk pros, FIBA, whatever level you want to throw in there. All-time favorite player of all time.
It's got to be Jordan.
Oh, there we go. See, you made that LeBron. Most people in your age is all about the LeBron, and I'm huge on Jordan and Kobe. I think that's the top two, but that's just my opinion. I was really suspecting. I thought you were going to say LeBron, and it was going to turn into a huge debate.
No, I'm a Jordan guy.
That's awesome. See, that's another part. I'm gonna put you on the spot right here. Okay, and this is one of those moments, sometimes you just gotta be honest with yourself, and sometimes people just agree to disagree. Favorite coach of all time?
My personal coach?
Yeah.
I would have to say my travel coach, Josh Wojciechowicz.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's between him and Doc. Because Doc had me at such a young age. Because I was going to his open gyms since I was in fifth, sixth grade, and that confidence that Woj instilled in me. I mean, I'll never forget it. That's no discredit to Jory, because Jory's gave me that. He's the reason I have that go-getter mentality. Because from day one, he was, I want you here and I want you doing this, and he gave me that. And he expected nothing but the highest standard from me, and I always respected him for that. Because he never gave up on me, even when I had my ups and downs. All three of those coaches, have done so much for me.
Well, see, when I ask you that, I know some people are going to think, why would you do that? Here's why. Is that you answered the question within the question, is that why he is your favorite is the confidence. A lot of coaches early on, I was always guilty of it, because I was always in your face, kind of, I never asked a player to do anything I wouldn't be willing to do, but in the same sense, I was too hard on these kids, because a lot of them weren't capable of doing some of those things, and you will tear down their confidence by doing that. And I learned by some baby steps on how to do this stuff. And when you get that kind of coach that leaves that first impression, it's kind of like a preacher planting the first seed in you. That you think, okay, you hear that word, and that word, it manifests into a lot more. It manifests into, you going from just going to church every now and again all the time to now you're getting baptized and you're living a full-fledged Christian life. And with a coach like that, he helps you to reach that get over that plateau and get to this place now that you're in. And any other coach that's worth a hill of beans is going to respect that. They're never going to look at you and go, man, come on, ain't you faithful? They're not going to say that. They're going to pat you on the back and go, man, I'm glad you're where you're at. So that's, and you have that coach in George. George's that dude. He's that good of a guy. And I've always just admired just the way he came to Hurley a few years ago to coach. And I said, man, I remember my son played. He was actually an assistant, but my son played under him, and he was like, George should be the head coach. He's that good. And as I watched year to year, I even put a post. I said, "Will somebody please give him an opportunity?" He got it. He's making the most of it. And like I said, I think you've got one of the best around right now. Just keep learning. I'm gonna give you a scenario, okay? Since you're gonna be the point guard now, it's the thing. I used to do this with kids. I'd set up a 20-second time clock, and I'd give them what the scenario was, and I wanted to see. I shouldn't have to go over it. If I'm a coach, I shouldn't have to tell you 3 times where you're gonna be on the floor. If you're really listening, you're gonna know you have one job to do. Where you're gonna go? Okay. So this is the scenario. Now listen real carefully, because there's some things I'm leaving out specifically for a reason. All right, you have no timeouts. Your team has to inbound under the opposing team's basket, so you get the full win. All right, you're down by 2 points, and you're on their home floor. And the pressure, you know how that is. The pressure, crowds, they're loud. Now you as a player, as the point guard, you have 4 fouls. Okay. So your coach has to call the final timeout, brings all you over, and you're the point guard. Remember, coach calls the last timeout, and he brings all you over, and he's telling you what you should be doing, and you all go back on the floor. Now, 2 of your teammates, and there are always 2 of the bunch. I don't know why that is. 2 of your teammates, before they get to mid-court, they forget to play. So they're scratching their head, and the referee's saying, let's go, let's get it going. Now, do you panic? You let the game just play out and say, okay, these guys are on their own, I'm gonna do my thing. Do you help your teammates that have no idea what they're doing? Or do you just take the matters into your own hands and become the coach on the floor and act as quickly as possible? Utilize their ability. Sometimes you got to make them, improvise, even if the coach says to go here to the point guard, you may have different. In a split second now, if this happens, and one of the guys is the inbound, what do you do? Do you just go to your place, tell him to take your place, you take the ball out? What would you do in that particular scenario?
He's one of the guys that doesn't know what he's doing is inbounding the ball.
Exactly.
I would tell him the general direction he's supposed to go before we're about to break out of the press, and then I would go get the ball, and then I'd be, like you said, I'd be the coach on the floor, and they'd improvise for like the best possible scenario I can get out of them to. And then, how much time did you say was left?
20 seconds.
20 seconds. Yeah, I'd be the coach on the floor, and then I'd try and drive and then kick and then create something for them. And if the ball works its way back to me, then it's meant to be.
So if their players are out of position at any given time, so let's just say different scenario, they're out of position at any given time, and the coach is yelling at them, go here, go there, and it's making you look bad because they're not going where they're supposed to be. Your team's struggling. And coach calls timeout. He jerks them over to the side. How do you handle that as a point guard? How do you handle those two guys?
You got to go tell them. You got to go reinforce what the coach said, but you can't break them down more than they already are because they're part of the team too. You have to have them too. So you have to tell them, it's all right, but we got to have you get your head back in the game. Calm down, get your composure. That's also a big thing Jordan instilled in us was composure. You can't never lose your composure no matter what happens.
I'll give you some advice. No matter what the scenario is, your biggest asset isn't on the floor. It's hanging on that wall. Always know the time. That's one as a point guard. That's one of your main purposes is to always be mindful of what the clock is and where the ball is. Which from what I've seen you guys play, that's something that Doc did a lot of. He was very good at managing the game clock to the point it was frustrating because he would run this crazy weave at the top end when he knew he had, if he was playing, like I remember one time he was playing early, and early did have better athletes that year. And Doc knew that. He couldn't go toe-to-toe with them, so what did he do? He got them frustrated. Top the key, make them right, and then as soon as they came out to try to play defense, he would dive in for a layup or a kick out. And that's because of the clock management. It's really huge, and this is, I think, is Jory's way of life. I think this is the way he teaches all kids. I think he would tell you this. And this is actually a couple of these are John Wooden quotes. It says, "Players with fight never lose a game, so keep fighting." And the reason that is that sometimes you don't just lose because you weren't better, you just run out of time. But if you keep fighting, you just never know at the end of the game what might happen. And that story he told me earlier that Jordy had spoken on earlier to me, that said a lot, is that not every team's like that. Not every point guard is going to be the mindset you are. Sometimes you have these crazy athletic point guards, and it is totally empty up here. You got to kind of stay on to them from daylight to dark. But you get go like you said. We got to go with what you got sometimes.
As you said, our favorite players with Jordan. One of my favorite quotes from him is, "I never lost a game. I just ran out of time."
That's right. Probably my all-time favorite quote from John Wooden is that if you don't have time to do it right, when are you going to have time to do it over? And it seems like that's the way you're doing right now. It's the way you're preparing your life. Is that failing to prepare is preparing to fail mentality. And it's been a joy watching you grow up and going through all the steps that you went in. And I hope and I pray that you continue to achieve your goals, because I know you're not just settling. You're not just going to say, okay, I've got to do this, and I'm okay with that. You've probably already got another mark set, whether it be a college or the next. Have you thought about college and what?
That's the ultimate, or that's the goal right now, is to go make it to college and play college ball. And once I get from there, I'll associate, and then I'll, just go from there. What that holds, what that college provides for me, and then I'll, go from there and see what else.
Have you got any offers yet?
I have one. The offer came from, because there was two teams that went on the overseas trip. There was a younger team that I was on and an older team. And the older team's head coach, Matt O'Brien, coaches a team in Kansas, and he offered me. When we got back from, it was actually after we won the championship. He come up to me. He said he wanted to officially offer me, and he likes the way I play.
That's cool. It really is. But see, that shows you their work that you put in led to that offer. Because if you hadn't win on that, you would never probably got the offer. He wouldn't see you. Chances are, and like I say, I really appreciate you coming, sitting down with me. It's been a joy to catch up with you. And I look forward to the season, the upcoming season. Buchanan County sports are going to be out and about throughout the football seasons. We're catching as many as we can. Michael and Tim, they're going wide open too. They're doing their thing in all these games. We continue to be watching and hoping you for the best success.
Thank you. I thank you guys for having me. It was a great experience.
I appreciate you.